This is the third episode of The Telescope, Cost of Global Fuel Crisis on Malawi's Economy. My name is Alinafe Mlamba, and I welcome you to this podcast, where we will look at how Malawians have been affected by the cost of fuel. And in this episode,
prices of fuel on the international market have been rising and very sharply. We talk about the prices of fuel on the international market because, as you are aware, we are importing this fuel.
Let's take a quick recap of our previous episode.
My main concern is the transport. The way transport costs have gone up has affected the cost of commodities on the market. It is very hard for us who live in rural areas.
My name is Robert Chilunjika. I sell second-hand clothes and bags. I am affected because wherever you go, the response you get is that fuel prices have gone up. And that means we have to get everything on a high price. And we also have to sell at a higher cost.
This is The Telescope, Cost of Global Fuel Crisis on Malawi's Economy. Malawi's energy sector is regulated by the Malawi Energy Regulatory Authority, MERA. This year alone, the country has experienced a sharp rise in the cost of fuel. In this episode, we are engaging MERA's Consumer Affairs and Public Relations Manager, Fitina Khonje. With the availability of a special price stabilization fund, which most expect to kick in to cushion fluctuation in pump prices, Malawians are still wondering why the situation is as it is. Let's hear from Khonje.
Since around June last year, on the international market, the prices of fuel have been increasing. Actually, that followed some months where there were reductions in the prices of fuel, and that reduction was also reflected here. However, as countries got more conversant with how to deal with COVID and the economies were opening up, the prices started picking up again. However, from that time, June up to December, we were not able to conduct any review of the prices because we didn't have a board at that time, because it's only the board that is mandated to review the prices. So we did have an adjustment in December and another one around March. But the general picture is that since last year, since around June, July, the prices of fuel on the international market have been rising and very sharply. We talk about the prices of fuel on the international market because, as you are aware, we are importing this fuel. So what happens to the free on-board prices there also affects us here. So in March, we reviewed the prices again, and then we had another price review in October this year. And again, the prices were adjusted because the fundamentals at that time dictated actually that we should indeed adjust the prices. Because if you are importing a product at a higher price, it may not make sense to sell it here at a lower price because who will be covering the difference? That's the question. Now, mostly people talk about the price stabilization fund. Indeed, we have this fund which is supposed to cushion us. So prices are supposed to be adjusted only when the fundamentals dictate that the adjustment could be of a magnitude that is beyond 5%. So if there is supposed to be a reduction, for example, and that reduction is below 5%, we don't expect that reduction. Instead, then it means the fund builds up. But this time, from March to from March to October this year, we saw the prices increasing on the international market, while here, as MERA, we did not adjust the prices because we took into consideration also what was happening locally because of the effects of COVID on the economy, and we felt maybe with time the prices would stabilize. But unfortunately, the prices kept going up. Meanwhile, the fund was depleted, because it means when we are not effecting a price adjustment here, then it means the price stabilization fund has to cover for the importation losses. So by October, we saw that it was not possible to continue to use the price stabilization fund, because in fact, there were no funds there. So the only option for us as a country to continue to have fuel was for us to adjust the fuel prices. So that has been the trend, and that has been the reason. The main reason being the prices of fuel on the international market have been rising, and price stabilization fund has been affected to the extent that there were no funds as of October, and also the other main determinant is the exchange rate. People may have noted the stability of the exchange rate at some point. However, when we are doing the price reviews, we do take into account all the factors from when we last conducted the review. So, in as much as there may have been some stability of the kwacha around September or thereabout, but we took into consideration all the periods starting from March, when we had the last review before October.
Now, is there hope that the pump prices can drop soon, and what's the projection like?
It is quite tricky for us to be grading so much on assumptions, because as you are aware, the prices on the international market can fluctuate and do fluctuate. So it is very tricky for us to be making statements on the basis of what is supposed to be or what will happen. Actually, when we are doing the price reviews, we base them on what has actually happened. So, however, this month of November, we have noted, and maybe people have also noted, that the prices of fuel have begun to ease. Actually, there has been a drop in the prices of fuel on the international market. But that is only towards the end of November. Now, when we are reviewing prices, we consider the whole of the past month, not necessarily just a few days.
Now, the general perception is that Malawi is amongst countries with high pump prices in the SADC region. Is this true, and why is it so?
Let's look at this. The similarity with the other countries is that we are all importing this fuel. However, we are probably operating under different circumstances somewhat. Consider this fact that we are not only importing, but we are quite away from the ports. While the other countries may be close to the ports or have indeed the ports in their countries. Therefore, the cost of transporting that fuel into their countries, in some cases, is very minimal compared to us. So that's a very big factor that differentiates us. So when we are thinking of what is the price of product X in one country, let's also think of what are the circumstances, what are the other costs that are incurred in addition to the prices of that product on the international market. So I think that's where we stand generally. But when we look at the trends in the prices so far, you see that even around October or thereabout, most countries also had adjusted their prices. And those that had adjusted were generally in the ranges of 18% and above, or 20-something%, even though some of them are close to the ports or have the ports in their countries. So this just shows that we are at least all responsive to what is happening on the international market. But beyond that, there are other factors that have to be taken into consideration, and mostly is this factor of transporting now the product into the respective countries or districts. So in our scenario where we have to take this fuel from ports that are quite the distance from our towns, that's a major contributing factor to our prices.
All right, thank you very much, Fitina Khonje.
Welcome.
Goodbye.
Bye.
And that's what we had in this episode of The Telescope, Cost of Global Fuel Crisis on Malawi's Economy. I've been your host, Alinafe Mlamba. Another podcast will come your way next week. Goodbye for now.